Had a great fascination for India. He loved India. He loved India's, particularly Gandhiji's philosophy of Satyagraha and non-violence movement. So he was a great lover of India. Shinzo Abe, another great man, he is no more, the former Prime Minister from 2006 to 7, and then again 2012 to 2020. He was the President of Prime Minister of Japan. He visited India in 2007 and delivered a lecture in the Rajya Sabha. What he said the different streams having their sources in different places all mingle their water in the sea. He then quoted the title of a book, The Confluence of Two Seas, written in 1655 by Dara Shikoh, the Mughal prince. He also alluded the discovery of India, written by our former Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. And he alluded also Ashoka, Mahatma Gandhi Satyagraha movement, and all these things. The contribution of Swami Vivekananda was also greatly uttered by him, and he said that his contribution is always mutual and respectful. Japan's Tenshin Okakura, a Renaissance man, attracted Swami Vivekananda at first or initially, and finally Okakura was influenced by him and started following Swamiji. So this was such a glamour, such an attractive personality, attractive monk, Swami Vivekananda, to the people in the world. Okakura was also later influenced by him. So he said, he cited the lecture of Swamiji, which he gave in 1893 in Chicago World Religious Conference. Swamiji said that help and not fight, assimilation and not destruction, and peace and not dissension. So this is the philosophy of India. How Indian philosophy is so rich, which is praised by great people of India, not only the prime ministers, not only the presidents. There are many other people who praised Indian culture, Indian philosophy. You see, I would like to say about Germany. Germany has great respect for Indian mythology, its literature and philosophy. For centuries, German philosophers, scholars, and even political leaders have got inspired by the works and ideas of Indian philosophy and religion. They are fond of Indian culture and philosophy. Sanskrit, being an old Indian language, major rich literary creation was made in this language. Do you know that many German universities are teaching Sanskrit in their universities? Do you know how many universities? Sanskrit is taught in 14 universities in Germany. The first German scholar of Sanskrit was Heinrich Roth, 1620 to 1668. Then we find the poet, philosopher, and Indologist Friedrich von Schlegel, who in 1808 published an epoch-making book, Über die Sprache und Weisheit der Indier. This means on the language and wisdom of India. In this book, the author argued that a people originating from India were the founders of the first European civilizations. This author also wrote, India is superior in anything. What has he wrote? You see, India is superior. His utterance is really very interesting. He said that India is superior in everything, intellectually, religiously, even Greek heritage seems pale in comparison. Another philosopher and Indologist, Gottfried von Herder, said mankind's origins can be traced to India, where the human mind got the first shapes of wisdom and virtue. So such was the thought of and praise of German philosophers about India. So this is really very interesting and very inspiring for all of us. Say another one of the most great philosophers was Max Muller. Here I would like to mention a few words and of praises of him or of Indian religious scriptures and philosophy. He studied Vedas, the Upanishads, and other Hindu scriptures. He was so impressed by reading the Vedas that he said, quote, "If I were asked under what sky the human mind has most fully developed, some of its choicest gifts, has most deeply pondered over the greatest problems of life, and has found solutions of some of them which are deserve the attention even of those who have studied Plato and Kant, I should point to India. And if I were to ask myself from what literature who we have been nurtured almost exclusively on the thoughts of Greeks and Romans and of the Semitic race, the Jews, may draw the corrective which is most wanted in order to make our inner life more perfect, more comprehensive, more universal, in fact more truly human life, again I should point out of India, unquote. German people were very fond of Kalidasa's Sanskrit dramas such as Shakuntalam, Meghdootam, Kumar Sambhavam and Malavika Nimitram, philosophy of Upanishad, the story of Nala and Damayanti, and episodes of Mahabharata. Say, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, a famous dramatist, poet, and biologist, and theatrical physicist, expressed his admiration for the Shakuntala in the form of a poem. This German poet was also inspired so much so that he decided to learn the Indian language of Sanskrit. A great German philosopher and poet, Johann Gottfried Herder, was also had great admiration for Shakuntala and particularly India. Once he said that India was a holy land he yearned for. William von Humboldt, a Prussian philosopher and diplomat, who after reading the Bhagavad Gita said, "I read the poems for the first time today. I felt a sense of overwhelming gratitude to God for having let me be acquainted with His work. It must be most sublime thing to be found in the world." Another great German philosopher, Arthur Schopenhauer, uttered that in the whole world there is not study so beneficial as elevating as that of the Upanishads. It has been the solace of my life and will be the solace of my death. They are the product of highest wisdom. Vedas are the most rewarding and the most elevating book which can be possible in the world. There are so many eulogies, so many praises about Indian philosophers, Indian books, Indian authors, and Indian culture. About what said about Indian culture by the French President Emmanuel Macron, I am not discussing. And there are so many things, so many people, including Dalai Lama, have said, praised about India many times. And for that reason, for all this reason, they have thought that Indian philosophy is so strong, and Indian philosophy and Indian religious scriptures, and the teachings of our gurus, our religious gurus, are so strong that India can really be called as a really global spiritual leader. So Barack Obama has on several occasions expressed that he was greatly inspired by Martin Luther King Jr. Interestingly, Martin Luther King Jr. himself was a great follower of Mahatma Gandhi. King said that Christ gave us goals. Jesus Christ gave them goals,